If you were hoping for a normal news day, well, I got bad news for you, and so does Ray Dalio. The monetary order, as we know it, is breaking down, and something else is looking to take its place. And when this type of thing is happening, an upending of the monetary order, a fourth turning, or a first turning, if you will, with the desired endgame being a total surveillance state, well, it's no surprise that the news is absolutely nuts on a daily basis, because everything is coming apart. We have a Fed Treasury Accord being rolled out, which is yield curve control, meaning Weimar beckons. Ray Dalio even said, what's happening is what happens at the end. Loss of faith in the reserve currency and printing to buy your own debt. Well, that's here. We are at the beginning of the end of fiat in its current form.
I think that right now we are at a decision-making point and very close to a recession. And I'm worried about something worse than a recession if this isn't handled well. A recession is 2 negative quarters of GDP, and whether it goes slightly there, we always have those things. We have something that's much more profound. We have a breaking down of the monetary order. We are going to change the monetary order because we cannot spend the amounts of money, so we have that problem. And when we talk about the dollar and we talk about tariffs, we have that. We are having profound changes in our domestic order, how ruling is existing, and we're having profound changes in the world order. Such times are very much like the 1930s. I've studied history, and this repeats over and over again. So if you take tariffs, if you take debt, if you take the rising power challenging the existing power, if you take those factors and look at the factors, those changes in the orders, the systems, are very, very disruptive. How that's handled could produce something that is much worse than a recession.
The Treasury just bought back $2 billion in debt. This is a common occurrence at this point, and the U.S. economy crushed expectations, added 130,000 jobs in January. Much stronger than expected all around the board, meaning the Fed pause will likely continue. All that's going on is U.S. credit card debt just hit $1.28 trillion, the highest level ever. The monetary order is breaking down as the crypto market structure bill stalls. Oh, Baldilocks and Besant trade blows. We have news on the ransom involved with Nancy Guthrie. El Paso gets shut down, and the banks and the whales are starting to make some major moves. Welcome back, I'm Rustin, and we got a wild news day to get to. Send it!
Let's step back from the sensational and be clear about what I mean. The monetary order is breaking down. Okay. What I mean by the monetary order is that fiat currencies and debt as a storehold of wealth is not being held by central banks in the same way, and that there was a change. The biggest market to move last year was the gold market, far better than the tech markets, right, and so on. And the U.S. markets underperformed foreign markets because of the fact you could see it in the numbers of the central banks and so on. So let's just look at the fact that on the other side of trade deficits and trade wars, there are capital and capital wars. And so as we're looking at that, and you reported what the stock market and so on, but you didn't report that the gold market is also up 3.
We did say that earlier this morning.
Okay.
It's up to
but
record levels again, and silver.
Is you look at what is happening and why it's happening and who's buying it. So let's just take a moment on that capital war issue, okay? We know that both the holders of U.S. dollar denominated debt, which is money, and those who need it, the United States, are worried about each other, right? So if you have other countries who are holding it and they're worried about each other and we're producing a lot of it, that's a big issue, right? So you have to explain what is going on with fiat currencies, generally speaking. And now if you take the conflicts, you can't ignore the possibility that capital wars, in other words, maybe there's not the same inclination to buy U.S. debt and so on. We at least need to talk about those possibilities and find out who is buying and selling what that is behind these market movements.
And what more from the legend Ray Dalio on what is happening here in America and what the future on CBDCs will be like. But first, let's start with this Nancy Guthrie story. Honestly, I had no idea this was happening. I was like elbows deep in the files and all this other crap. And then my mom said something to me about like, did you hear about this Nancy Guthrie story, kidnapped by Bitcoin? And I didn't hear anything else besides the one part. And I said, Mom, Bitcoin is free and open source software. It can't kidnap anyone. And then she said, no, there was a ransom with this kidnapping, blah, 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 blah. So I go look into it. And yeah, a lady got kidnapped. They requested something like 6 million in Bitcoin. The ransom time lapsed, but there was a recorded Bitcoin transaction to the wallet associated with the kidnapper. So it appears someone was trying to maybe get them to react or move it or do something, anything. They even arrested a guy, but they have released him. Again, I'm very new to this story, but it's absolutely wild. We hope everyone is safe and all of that. But is it wrong to be getting a little bit of like Big Lebowski vibes right now? I think we've learned these past few years to question every narrative. Now here's something to make you ponderous. The FAA just shut down all flights in and out of El Paso for 10 days. Not a delay, not weather, not technical difficulties. 10 full days, commercial flights grounded. Cargo flights grounded. Private jets grounded. Everything. And the official reason, special security reason. Totally normal. That makes us all feel way better. Meanwhile, other sources are saying it could be a GPS jamming exercise. Some people are speculating potential military actions. Nobody has answers. You don't shut down an international airport on the US-Mexico border for 10 days unless something significant is going on. Absolutely unprecedented, and I don't know about you, but can we please have a normal day? Just one normal day. Oh no. No, the circus continues, my friends. And now back to Ray Dalio, because it's becoming more and more obvious to see what Dalio was getting at here. The tearing apart in the monetary order coinciding with a split amongst the people and the social order. Polarization, irreconcilable differences. This is important because it's a historical norm. These things have happened, and they're happening again now, and we can see different things, like in the caste system, and much more that was exposed in the Epstein files, or in panic ensuing after Trump has ordered the CIA to give 2020 intel to a lawyer. I mean, we can really see, if it isn't apparent, what Ray Dalio is getting at here. All things are coming apart.
I've heard you say that the United States is in a civil war, and I think most Americans don't perceive that. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by a civil war,
Reconcilable differences. What about banks and Bitcoin and crypto? We have big news on the Clarity Act and market structure bill, and some bullish news coming from none other than Goldman Sachs. We're about to bring it home, but before we do, look at our likes!
3 or 4 times, maybe. I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
If you're not running a node, you're not verifying your own transactions. You're relying on someone else. The Bitcoin way will get your coins off the exchanges, into cold storage, and guide you step by step in setting up your own node. It's hands-on training from the masters of self-custody. And ask yourself, are they listening to your calls? Tracking every tap? The Bitcoin way will help you choose a privacy phone, install a privacy operating system, and regain your digital sovereignty. And if you need location insurance, a Plan B residency is within reach. They'll guide you step by step into a Bitcoin-friendly community where sovereign individuals thrive. Visit thebitcoinway.com and book your free 30-minute consultation using that link in the show notes. Today's show is brought to you by Ledn. If you ever need cash but don't want to sell your Bitcoin, Ledn makes that possible. They're the global leader in Bitcoin-backed lending with $10 billion plus in loans issued since 2018 and a perfect record of protecting client assets. Why is a Ledn loan different? With custodied loans, your collateral is not lent out to generate yield. There are no credit checks. You can get funds in as little as 6 hours, no monthly payments, and you can repay anytime with 0 penalties. Plus, they publish proof of reserves every 6 months verified by a top accounting firm. Ledn gives Bitcoin holders a secure, transparent way to unlock liquidity without selling. Learn more at learn.ledn.io/simply. That's learn.ledn.io/simply. BDCs, not good for you and me. This is why we Bitcoin, why America and everyone needs Bitcoin. CBDCs are a live running 24/7 social credit system whose rules are determined by the state or its corporate proxies. Think of it as satanic fiat. Wait, we all saw those files. Even more satanic than fiat itself. But let's get to the news. Breaking: the White House is urging banks and digital asset firms to reach an agreement on the Clarity Act and broader market structure bill by March 1st. The goal? Clarify the power struggle between this SEC and CFTC, with digital commodities like Bitcoin falling under CFTC oversight. The bill has stalled in the Senate, facing pushback from industry leaders over restrictive provisions. At the same time, major banks like JP Morgan and Bank of America met with policymakers to debate stablecoin rules, especially around yield limits. Bottom line, DC is trying to lock in the rules of the game. March 1st could be a key deadline on how Bitcoin and the broader market is regulated in the US. So Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong says banks are trying to kill competition under the current Crypto Clarity Act.
Well, I think the high-level principle here is that we can't really have banks come in and try to kill their competition at the expense of the American consumer, right? People in America should be able to earn more money on their money. I think stablecoins are an opportunity for banks. They should be able to build great product lines with this. It's an opportunity for crypto companies. Congress and the laws that get passed, they should really create a level playing field and say, this is allowed, this is not allowed. Now, all American companies, go compete, try to build the best products and services. That's great. What's not great is if the banks can put their thumb on the scale to try to kill some of their competition, and they only pay about, 14 basis points on the average savings account. Consumers should be able to earn 3.8% on their stablecoin rewards. And so we're going to keep fighting for our customers' rights and the 52 million Americans who use crypto every day.
I mean, what would you say to the argument that banks have put forward that because of the role they play in the economy, the loans that they make, if they do wind up seeing billions of dollars, as some have estimated would happen going from banks to stablecoin, they say that could have a big impact on the economy. What's your response to that?
Yeah, well, banks don't have a monopoly on lending money. Actually, crypto is doing quite well in this area as well, and crypto is a technology to update all parts of the financial system, whether it's lending, capital formation, et cetera. So I think banks do play an important role in the economy and making these loans. Crypto should be allowed to do similar types of activity. We're not engaged in fractional reserve lending. That's an important point, by the way, because the bank license, what that really allows you to do is fractional reserve. The banks don't have all of your money there. That's why there's so much oversight and you can have these runs on the bank. Stablecoins have 100% reserve, right? And they're all the assets now post-Genius are held in this short-term US Treasuries. So in my view, it's actually a safer place to store your money, and crypto companies should be allowed to compete and offer loans just like banks.
And then Scott Bessent accused Coinbase of holding up the crypto market structure bill.
Quick on this crypto legislation that seems to be hung up in the Senate. Secretary, do you expect that the Clarity Act will in fact come back for a markup? And why are we having a debate about bank margins? Where do you stand on this? Do you think crypto platforms should be able to pay rewards, pay customers for moving stablecoin or money out of traditional bank deposit accounts and keep them on crypto platforms? Where are you on that issue?
Again, Maria, I think what we're seeing in the crypto market over the past few months means more than ever that the U.S., we need market structure, we need clarity, and we need to get this across the line this spring. We got a few recalcitrant actors who said, well, it'd be better to have no legislation than the legislation we don't want. And I think both on the banks, the other crypto firms are united against them. So we need to get this across the line. The U.S., under President Trump's leadership, the U.S. is becoming the crypto capital of the world with our best practices, best regulation. And for crypto to remain a viable digital asset and move forward, we need to get this Clarity Act done.
So you think it will be? It'll come back fairly soon then?
I'm optimistic, and there's bipartisan support here.
I don't know. I don't know about old Coinbase. I don't know. Something has always just seemed a little off there. To each their own. But especially in a battle of wits against a human economic weapon. I mean, good luck, Baldilocks. I'm taking Besant 10 out of 10. Here is Finance-a-Lot telling you what I've been telling you about Besant since day one. He was selected for the purpose of economic warfare. The dude is a menace, and he's a menace that you want on your team.
Last month, the White House announced its maximum pressure campaign on Iran, designed to collapse its already buckling economy. The Iranian economy is in disarray. 35% official inflation has a currency that has depreciated 60% in the last 12 months, and an ongoing energy crisis. I know a few things about currency devaluations, and if I were an Iranian, I would get all of my money out of the rial now.
In the speech that Scott Bessent gave at the Economic Club of New York, he admitted that the Trump administration's so-called maximum pressure campaign is designed to collapse Iran's oil exports, to shut down the country's oil sector, and to prevent Iran from accessing the international financial system.
We will close off Iran's access to the international financial system by targeting regional parties that facilitate the transfer of its revenues. Our maximum pressure campaign, designed to collapse Iranian oil exports, we are going to shut down Iran's oil sector.
And because the United States is at the center of the international financial system and the US dollar is the global reserve currency, this makes US sanctions particularly devastating, very painful, especially for small and medium-sized countries.
Oh, and look at that. Goldman Sachs reveals $1.1 billion in Bitcoin exposure through MicroStrategy and Bitcoin ETFs. Whales accumulate, and the train of consequences signals the money printer cometh. Or the U.S. defaults as 1/3 of all U.S. government debt, $10 trillion, is set to mature within the next year. There is no stopping this train. And the possibility of World War III is higher than ever, which is probably a good time to visit our new sponsor, Sat123. Because when cell service dies, life doesn't have to. Sat123 hooks you up with real satellite phones, Starlink kits, and rugged off-grid internet that works anywhere. Mountains, ocean, middle of nowhere, it doesn't matter. If you care about preparedness, freedom, and staying connected when it actually counts, go to sat123.com. That's sat123.com, and don't forget to use promo code SIMPLY for 15% off. No signal? No problem. What do you guys think? Let us know down below. I hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pamp by sharing the Sound Money Gospel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Love you guys. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.